How y'all doing? Tonight, we're gonna make a shepherd's pie. I really like this dish because it's a good, wholesome, home-cooked, Southern comfort food. It can also be made from some leftovers if you really wanted to. But we're gonna make it. It's a nice, simple recipe. We're gonna have a little bit of good dark beer here. And I tell you what, it's one of my favorite down-home dishes. So we're gonna start out here tonight by making the mashed potatoes. Let's come over here and I'll show you how it's about to be done. Whoops. All right, we got our potatoes there. I partially peel them. Now I like to use these Idaho russet potatoes because I want a creamy mashed potato to go on top of there. You got some boiling salt water. So go ahead and put these in this boiling salt water. You want to make sure they're all about the same size. So that's why I cut them like that. I just want them about the same size pieces so they will cook equally. And we're just going to let them boil there for a while until they get pretty soft. Okay, while them taters are cooking, we'll go ahead and get started on the rest of this on the filling. Got me a cup of onions diced and a cup of carrot diced, about 2 whole carrots there. Big onion. We're going to go ahead and pour it down here in about 2 tablespoons of vegetable oil. And we're going to saute this for a minute. Because I want to cook them carrots and them onions a little bit to get a little bit of color on them before I start adding these other ingredients. So I still got this on pretty high heat. And we'll just let this go a couple minutes here until we get a little color. Alright. Okay, now we're starting to pick up a little bit of color on our vegetables. We're starting to brown them onions just a little bit. We'll go ahead and add my meat. And what I have here is 2 pounds of really lean. This is 85-15 ground beef. I normally don't use really lean meat like this when I use ground meat because I like the flavor that the fat gives. But in this particular recipe, I want to use it really lean because I've got some oil and other stuff in there. And I don't want that extra fat. I don't want to have to drain it. So we're going to chop that up. I'm about to get it browned down. Also, I'm going to put a couple toes of minced garlic in there at this point. See if I can get that out of there. Alright. Just go ahead and mix this in and brown this down. And get this meat browned up. It won't take but a few minutes. Ain't that hard to do. Okay, now that I got this meat browned down for the most part, made a mess of my cooktop here. We go ahead and we'll add some flour, okay? Because we're going to try to thicken this up a little bit. Add this flour. This is about 2 tablespoons, maybe a little bit more flour. We'll mix this in. I'm going to turn the grease, the heat down a little bit too. I'll tell you what, this recipe here, I followed the directions from when I got this recipe, and I shouldn't have, what I should have done is brown the meat off, set it aside, and then put my vegetables in there and started browning those. I don't know why it called for putting the vegetables in and then putting your meat in there with the vegetables. All that did was make a hell of a mess here on my cooktop and burn. It looks like a couple of the vegetables, but not bad. Just got a little bit darker, a couple of pieces. But we'll see. I've had this recipe before in the past. My wife had made it and it was really good. So we'll figure out how it turns out after all this. Now, put the flour in there. I'm going to add some tomato paste. Not tomato paste, sorry. Some tomato sauce. I've got about let's say about 1.5 cups of tomato sauce. Just your red canned tomato sauce. Add that in there. And just stir this around. And don't worry, like I said, at this point, if all this meat isn't so brown, because it's going to cook here. I'm going to let this simmer for a while. And it's going to cook all that meat, especially when you're dealing with that lean meat like that. Oh man, that was a mess. Scoop right there. There's carrots, onions, went all over this cooktop. Oh, it's going to be a mess to clean up, but oh well. Maybe I need to use a different tool. Instead of a spatula, I'll use a spoon. Maybe that'll curve some, keep stuff from falling out. Yeah, this is going to work a lot better. Alright, got that in there. Now, I want to put some spices in there. What I've got is about a teaspoon or so of thyme, dried thyme, and I had some fresh rosemary I chopped up in the backyard. And I only put about a teaspoon of that because, you know, rosemary can be overpowering. I don't want too much of that. Then I've got some black pepper, about a teaspoon of that, and about a little over a teaspoon of Slap Your Mama. You know, I gotta put that in there. So we kind of cook that around. Just, man, let that just simmer in there, and it's really smelling good. You can smell them spices. Now I'm gonna put a little bit of Worcestershire. It's about a tablespoon and a half. And then I've got some of this bouillon, or they call it Verdun bouillon. It's just like a beef paste. See, it looks like that. Comes in a jar. It's basically like a paste bouillon. And I took about a teaspoon, maybe about 2 teaspoons, mixed with a little bit of water, so I could pour it in here. It's going to act like a really good beef flavoring, okay? Pour that in there. Now I'll give it some salt too. You notice I don't hardly ever put salt in anything until at least after I've tasted it and it's been cooking. So we're going to mix all this stuff up. I'm going to turn it down to low and let this simmer for about 15 minutes when we get back to the potatoes. Okay, now I'm going to turn this down to low, let this simmer for about 15 minutes, and then we're going to start mashing the potatoes. Okay, got these potatoes drained here. First things first, I'm going to add some butter to them. Add these potatoes, about a stick of butter there would be good. Let that start to melt. Maybe a little bit of salt. Just a pinch, because I had that salt in the water. And a little bit of cracked black pepper. And let's start to mash. I've got a little potato masher here. I'm going to start doing is breaking some of these potatoes down. And just start smashing. It might take a minute, might have to cut some of them up, but you would rather them be a little bit hard on the hard side now than too soft. The too soft is just not have a good consistency in the end. So I want to go ahead and get these mashed up and mix together with that butter. Just got the butter in there. See some of these other chunks, you just got to look out for them. And this will take a few minutes. Just keep stirring, keep mashing. Once you get mashed everything up, we'll move to the next step. Okay, now that I've got all the chunks mashed up. They're still fairly dry. We're going to start going with some of these wet ingredients. They got 8 ounces, 1 cup of sour cream. Let's go in there. And I see with mashed potatoes, I like to add one little thing at a time. Because I don't want to get them too soupy. That'd be the worst. You always put more liquid and stuff in there. You just can't subtract it and take it out unless you cook more potatoes. So we'll put that in there first. Let's see where we get. Mix that in and get a good flavor too. So that little carrot stayed in there. Alright. Now this would be great mashed potatoes just served like this. We'll make them a little bit thinner. Before I make them a little thinner, I'm going to go ahead and add, got my green onions over here. Just chopped up 1 sprig of green onions. I just like that in the mashed potato. And we'll mix that around a little bit. This is going to be good. Now I don't have any heat on underneath here. We're just going off the residual heat of potatoes. Let's go ahead and put a little bit. I got a little bit of milk. Add about a half cup, 1/4 cup first. We'll stir it. See how we are. Like I said, as thick as they were, it would be great to just serve on a plate. I want them a little bit thinner. Go on top of this shepherd's pie. Hey, these looking good. I'll tell you what, that's about the perfect consistency that I want. So we're going to leave these guys alone and cover them and set them over here to the side. Okay, now back to our meat mixture. I've got the meat simmering. I've got about a cup of frozen corn and about half a cup of frozen peas. Oh, don't tell me. Okay. We'll mix that in there. Which I shouldn't have measured. I should have left them in a bag. Just poured them in here. Gonna be hell trying to get this out. Sorry, took more of a mess to clean up on the range. Okay. I'm gonna stir this in now. With a spoon. See, that'll add a little flavor. I didn't want to put those in at first because you don't want these peas and this corn to get real mushy. So basically what I'm doing, just on low heat, I'm going to stir this in. I'm not going to simmer it for any time really. Let's get it mixed in well. Probably stir around like this for about 2.5 to 3 minutes. Then we'll start making the pie. Okay, now we're going to start construction on the pie. I've got the mix here, the meat mix. I'm going to go ahead and make this the bottom. It smells so good. And I tasted it. And it's salted perfectly. I'm going to put any more salt in. Go ahead, and this is probably going to be enough to make 2 pies. That's good. Got to kind of press that around a little bit. A bit more. Okay. Now, right over that, I want to put a little cheese. A little bit of Cottage Jack, mild cheddar, shredded. We'll just put some of that there. The reason I'm not putting this on top is we're going to bake this off in a 450-degree oven, and this cheese will burn. It's on top. Okay, so we'll put that in there like that. Now let's go over to these mashed potatoes. I'll just start scooping them out. Drop them on top like that. And just spread out what you can. Move, spread. We go ahead and just get a layer of these mashed potatoes here on top. Alright, now I got a good layer of mashed potatoes on top. I'm going to stick this guy in a 400 degree oven for about 20-25 minutes. Okay, yum. This guy's been in there for about 20 minutes. You know, I see the potatoes are starting to brown a little bit on the little peaks. That's just how you want it. Go ahead and try to cut a piece. I wish I had a pie service spatula or whatever you call it. We'll just see how this does. Try our best. I know it's going to be messy getting it out, but it's still going to taste good. Go ahead with this little spatula here. Try to just get this piece. Oh yeah. There we go. Yum. Oh, it smells great down in there too. I'm gonna put a little bit of that beef on the side. Okay. Now we're just gonna give it a taste. I get my fork. Go ahead and give me some of this shepherd's pie. Okay, get plenty of the inside, plenty of potato. Give it a try. Wow. A really great taste. Taste the hint of that rosemary in there. Taste the thyme. The vegetables are still a little crunchy. Really good. I will say this. Only two things that changed about this recipe. When I did it, I would brown my meat first, set it aside, then do your onions and your carrots. Because that made a whole big mess trying to brown the meat with the onions and the carrots in the pan. And use a bigger pie pan or maybe like a Pyrex dish, because when it got near about 20 minutes, about 5 minutes away, I had some drippage come out to size, a little bit of oil from the meat. That's why you got to use a really lean meat, or else it'll put a bunch of oil and it'll come out when you're baking it in the oven. So a little bit bigger of a pan, you know, brown that meat first, and it's terrific. It really did taste good. And this is going to be one of my go-to dishes now for a good little Southern home style meal.